going here. All right, so I have a couple of things that I want to talk to you guys about, especially as we are, you know, kind of nearing the end of our class. So since we've gotten past our Thanksgiving break, now we've just got 3 weeks left in our course, and the course is ending on December 15th. Okay, just a reminder, if you're not listening right now, it's all on you. Okay, so there are important things that I want to go over. So number one, be watching your grade book. Okay, I'm going to try to get these things graded as soon as possible. I mean, on a daily basis, I'm going through things, so I'm hoping you're seeing that they're getting turned around relatively quickly. Okay, as quickly as I can. I'm also adding notes in there, and I'm trying to be as descriptive as possible, but sometimes it may not come across as easy to understand what I'm trying to you know, get to you. So please don't hesitate to reach out, or we meet in class here and we can go over things, and I'm happy to spend more time on it. But if the notes that I make, whether it's the markups on the drawings and the notes that I have on the side, if those are making sense, you know, just go through those, make the corrections, and continue on. You'll notice that at the end of the week here, we've got some assignments due. And 3 of those assignments are the detailed drawings that we have for this particular vice, the vice assembly, or that project that we've been working on. And I know that there's a lot there. Okay. A good strategy would be, and some people have been doing this already, like just take 3 of them right now and hand in one of those assignments. There's 3 assignments for 10 drawings. Okay. So I would take 3 of those, hand it in, see what the feedback is, because if you try to go through them all at once and hand all 10 in at once, there might be the same
another guy, but
all 10.
and I was driving her around.
What was that?
So she got blocked real quick.
Oh, I'm gonna.
He doesn't realize that he's not muted.
Yeah. Yeah, let me hold on for a second.
That's Bessie. I took Bro's beer.
Stop sharing.
I gave it back to him.
All right. I am going to, let's see here. I'm gonna mute anybody who's not muted. There we go. Okay. All right, we should be good. Sorry. And no worries. I know that it happens. It's not a huge deal. So let me reshare my screen here. Okay. And so a good strategy when you're handing these in, especially when we've got 10 drawings to hand in, do 3 at once and then get those corrected, get some feedback, make sure you're on the right track. And then if there are things to correct them, make sure you're applying those to the next ones and then continue on. All right. You don't have to finish them all 10 at once and then hand them all in at once. So that would be a good strategy to go by. The other thing that I'm going to encourage you to do, that is, if you are not here for class, or if you're missing, job number 1 before you jump in and just start trying to get the assignment done, watch the videos. Okay. There have been some things that have come up that we've had to correct along the way. One of them is the borders. All right. I've been mentioning at the last couple classes that you need to remove the ones that we had originally in there. There was in the background, my fault. I didn't know that it was there. It wasn't causing me the error because I had that drawing in my directory and I thought they were working okay. But when you guys use them, it was causing an error. It was something like the bearing block or something like that. So I had to redo the templates, make sure that there was nothing in the background. And then I had to re-upload them. And I told everybody a couple times already, you have to remove all of the format files and the template files out of your working directory if you downloaded those, and then re-download fresh ones and do all of them that are in there. Okay. And that way you've got the brand new ones there. If you're still getting that error, you need to do that. All right. And part of, you know, when you are missing the lecture, that's your job number 1. First thing to do before you even, you know, ask any questions, go back to the lectures that you might have missed, because you might have gotten those questions answered. Okay. So when errors like that come up, I try to correct them ASAP, and then also share what the fix is. All right. So make sure that you're doing that. As we're entering into these last weeks, I know we don't want to hear it, but I'm going to keep saying it in these last, I think 6 or 7 lectures that we have. Check your grades, make sure you're on task. I am putting in zeros for assignments that are 2 weeks or more old that you haven't handed in. All right. I want you to have a better reflection of what your grade is. So if you are getting zeros, it doesn't mean you can't hand things in. It just means that they're not in, and it's time to get on top of that. I know during the class, we have the target due dates and you can still hand in for full credit, but we got 3 weeks left. And if there's still, you know, early assignments hanging out there, they're no fun to work on anymore. We're on to like fun, cool stuff at this point. So, so make sure you're getting the extra hours in to make that happen. Because as we look at the end of our course, again, you're going to hear this a couple times, the 15th is the absolute drop dead due date. All right. There are no extensions beyond 11:59 on the 15th. Okay. So, please make sure that you're, you know, looking ahead and planning out your schedule. I realize that these are the last couple of weeks for other courses that you have. So there's probably stuff going on in there as well. So, so if you've left this to kind of, you know, procrastinate till the end, and that happens, and there's, you know, probably good reasons for that, now's the time that you have to start getting serious about making sure that you're catching up with things. Okay. So I don't want to spend any more time on that. Any questions right now on the calendar stuff? Okay, there will be a couple more assignments out there because we have some more things to go over, but for right now, that's what we have. Now, tonight, what we're going to be working on is we're going to be looking at introducing assemblies, okay? Before we do so, I will take a question and answer, but even before that, I want to show you that in module number 5, I added some things today, all right? So if we go to module number 5, I feel a little like I'm asking everybody each time we get together, do you have questions on the drawings? Do you have questions on the drawings? And it's like crickets. I'm getting nothing. All right. I have a select few that have been handing things in and getting feedback, but there's a lot of people that haven't, and that's okay as long as you're confident. But what I did do is to be a little proactive in the session recordings. You're going to notice that at the bottom here, I have for you, kind of start right about here-ish. So module 5, machine vice details. This was last night's lecture, but then starting with the demo of the base drawing. This is a new video that I created today going over some special elements. I didn't do each and every dimension, but things like creating the section, putting a plane in place, doing the tolerancing, you know, some things that were just a little different on that particular model. I mentioned in this video. The next one that I worked on in that very same manner was the vice screw drawing. Then I did one for the collar drawing and then for the sliding jaw drawing as well. Okay, so as you're working on these, if you have any questions on any one of those, or even if you're like, I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly, or I have no idea how to do this, start there. Okay, because I focused in on a drawing at a time, and I tried to pick the ones that I thought would probably be the ones you had questions on, and tried to target questions that I've either gotten or anticipated that you would have. So, so I wanted to make you aware that those are out there as an additional resource. I'm not going to lecture on these because I'm going to probably tell you if you have a question on the collar, go there first, or the sliding jaw. Have you gotten a chance to look at the video yet? If you haven't, look there first because some of your questions could be answered right there. Okay. And then come to me. All right. It's not that I'm pushing you off, but I realize that I'm not available all the time for you either. So I want to make sure that you know those are out there. So there's 4 new drawings or 4 new videos out there of 4 separate drawings that that could be helpful if you need it. Okay. So so I wanted to let you know that was out there. So now I want to open it up to any specific questions that anybody has in regard to the detail drawings that we've been, you know, currently talking about. So I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment. I'm gonna watch our chat box. Is there anybody online that has any questions? And you can unmute yourself at this point. I did mute some people who weren't. Crickets. Oh, David, you're unmuting.
Yeah, I did have a question on the I guess it'd be the sliding jaw.
Okay.
So the ISO view that I have for it,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is the right view for it, but it's not showing much because most of the view is tangent line. And I want to say I remember because you don't want tangent lines in your ISO view, but I remember you could have them as phantom lines in one of the ASMs that I read, but I was trying to find a source for it
You remember?
today for like 5 hours and I couldn't
Oh
find it.
no, oh no, yeah. Always think of that ISO view as like icing on the cake. It's like an extra. We aren't going to be dimensioning to that. And so what we want to do is we want to add that for clarity only, for visualization purposes only. There might be a standard. I don't know that there is one for exactly that, but in the views themselves, we don't want to put the tangent lines because
Yeah.
then it just gets super cluttered. But up in that view up there, I think it is appropriate because it does give you a better picture. So
Because the
let me,
majority of that face, like I said, like that particular ISO view that I have, I guess I can share my screen if you want.
well, and I can open up Creo as well because I think I put it on one of them. If I do an open, I think it was, let me see, I think it was,
Because the only other ISO view I could think of would be the back side of it, but it doesn't really show any of the important stuff of it. Like it's pretty,
yeah.
I don't know. Like the front of it shows the face that comes up, and then it shows the curvature of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then the through hole, like the hole that doesn't go all the way through. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess because the markup I got for it was to change the. Let me see if
Yeah.
I can go find it.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, David, and not to share your grade or anything, and I'm not sharing your grade at all, but I believe the comment was, when you look at this view right here, there wasn't enough edges to really see everything kind of blended together. Let me see if I
Yeah,
have let me see if I have my, what number is it 60? Yeah,
it's
60.
yeah, it's 60. I
This
think.
one? No, it's not. That's the vice screw.
I had 2 questions on that one too.
50 is a sliding jaw. Okay, so let's put I don't have this drawing completely done, but let's put a general view up in the corner here. And we'll add it. And let's see what comes in. So right now, this is going to be the display it looks like it's just shading. Okay. I would add shading with edges at the very least, okay, because it gives you a better view of that, okay? The one that I like the best is going to be the no hidden. I think that's what it is, like this. But it does have those. And I think the one that you may have done.
So normally I do. No, I did. So I have no hidden on, but
You
I
have,
have tangent
oh,
edges not
and
shown at
then you
all
did a
because that
none. You did a none
yeah.
here,
And so
right? Yeah,
and that sort of destroys the view.
it
But I
does.
but I
Yeah.
remember that I feel like you can use instead of that because you're not supposed to do that as I recall. I don't think.
I don't think there's a law against it. Again, this view is for, like I said, icing on the cake. I mean, we can actually leave it off. It is not required to put it on at all. I like seeing it because I think it adds, especially for people who are dealing with your drawings, who aren't as versed in, the
Okay.
mechanics of, visualization and stuff. It helps a lot. So I think it's nice. But what you can do if you want to mess around with it, and I actually cover this in this video for this drawing for the individual. Oops, shoots, I didn't save it. Hold on. General view, go back in.
So I set it to phantom instead of because I when I learned originally like years ago, I learned that tangent lines, if they are on the thing, they can't be as object lines.
Sure.
So I made it so the rule was if you had to show it because that was a major part of like to actually see what it looks like to make them as phantom lines.
Sure.
Just so there's an indicator that that's not an object line.
Right.
Which is what I did. Which is what I just changed it to, and I was wondering if that would be okay. Because
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's more than what was there, because like you said, it kind of like washes everything away, and it's like, what is this, right? But what you can do is you can put all the tangent edges in, and then on our layout ribbon, you'll see that there is edge display. So if you click on that, you get a menu manager here. And you can erase some of those lines. Now, the trick to this, and I do talk about it in the video for this sliding jaw, is when I do that, I'm going to erase the line, then it's asking me to select objects. So for instance, I can I don't know which ones I would end up, probably this one I would get rid of. And I'll just pick a couple here so that so that we can kind of see. Now I'm holding the control key and I am, maybe not that one. And I am just like selecting multiples here like we can for other applications. Okay, so I'm kind of getting rid of lines that I think are, you know, not going to be really needed. Okay, so I'm just going to stop there for right now. When you are satisfied with your selections, you need to not click done. You need to not hit your middle mouse button like we normally do for a lot of things, okay? You have to hit the enter key and then they go away, all right? So you'll
Got it.
notice here already, David, it starts to kind of look a little better, right?
Yeah.
So even with some of them in there, but not all of them. So if you wanted to play around and do that, you certainly can. Now, if you delete something, you're like, I want to get it back. You have to go back to that edge display. And this time you have to say solid or tangent solid. And you're going to click that. And then as you go over the top of ones that you got rid of, like this one right here, I
Mhm.
can select that. And now when I hit enter, it's back in.
Got it.
Okay. So I do talk about that because in the views here as well, we get kind of that all or nothing type of an effect. And if you've handed this in already, I'm not going to have you redo it, but it's still worth looking at because in this view, for instance, if I go in and do my properties and go to my display, notice I have hidden and I do have the default or it would be solid there. But if I put none on here and I apply, notice that it takes all of that stuff away. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, I have to dimension that 3/4 inch dimension and there's nothing there to dimension to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it back on the default, apply. And then there were more lines in here, but what I did was I went through, I put it actually on the default. You were seeing all of those tangent edges. And then I went through and I picked out the ones from that edge display, erased the lines and selected them individually. Okay.
Sure.
And then again, hit enter at the end. Otherwise, if you hit done, because that seems pretty intuitive, oh, I'm done, right? Or if you hit the middle mouse button, like we do for a lot of other things to get or end the command, you'll see nothing happen. All right. You have to hit the enter key. All right. So, so that's that. Play around with that. And again, in this video, I show you how to do that as well as the adding in planes so that you have planes for creating the sections and the local section here as well.
Okay.
All right. And then after that, it's really just the details, if you would. So I felt like putting the dimensions on gets a little bit easier, but creating some of these views is a little more involved. All right. I see there's a chat over here. I just can't get cosmetic threads. I know we're going to talk about that too. Actually, I do show you guys that in a little bit. I know. So is there anything else before cosmetic threads? All right.
Did have one other question on that.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
That same one.
Yep.
So I used the whole feature with a drilled hole to get on the backside in your section. So I used that to get it in there, and then I used the note on the drawing because it had because I used the 1/4 20 UNC, like all the stuff that was on the drawing.
Yep.
It input that in for me.
Yeah.
And then I guess was I supposed to use the dimension instead because you crossed off a bunch of the stuff on it, and I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
So when they add their standard note, because you use the standard note that came in, right? They just put too much in there. And so all you need to add is, let's see here. I think it's on the, I'm gonna go underneath my camera. Hold on, I gotta get it activated. On the guide. You just want to call it out like this because I think they add more information about the size of the drill and all that kind of stuff, don't they?
Yeah, so they have it's a 2B drill number 7, and it has the diameter of 0.2 to a 1.
So all you need to do is say that you're gonna tap it here and they can figure out what standard size drill they're gonna be using.
Okay.
Okay, to tap drill that, and then you just want to make sure that your thread is 5/8 of an inch deep.
Okay. So for all drill, so anything that is drilled like that, we don't want to necessarily call out the drill bit. We just want to call
No.
out the threads basically that
Never,
are in it.
correct. Yep.
Okay.
That just cleans it up and simplifies it. Years ago, we used to do that where we would tell them what the drill was, but it's no longer necessary or required.
Okay. So then should I just delete that information out of the note in the drawing, or should I just delete the entire thing and then use the dimension and then add it into a what's the word?
A note? The note?
Yeah, so there's the actual note from the hole in the 3D model that
Right.
that just comes in. So if I do annotate and hit
I think it'll let you manually change that, correct?
I think so, yeah. So if I click show
So if
model
you can
annotations,
go ahead and do that. Yeah.
okay, so I can either do that, or I guess my other question was, do I just use the actual dimension on the left, because that's also there as the 0.201, and then I can add it in as a I forget what it's called. Like if you click the dimension and then it brings up the dimension text, I could add that in the text. So like use the symbols or whatever, and I could say, hey, it's this.
Yeah, that would be fine too. Either way,
So either of those works. Okay, I wasn't sure if there was if it matters.
Or you could do a note and then attach it as well. Any one of those.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I feel better about this now. That
All
answers
right. Yeah,
the
this one
majority
is-
of my questions.
Yeah, there's a lot here. And I do encourage you. I think the video is, hell, it's about a half hour long, not gonna lie. But I go over actually the order of the model, how I created it. As well as kind of going through each one of these, putting in the plane that goes through the hole here so that you can get the local section.
Sure.
And then also setting up these views and such.
Okay.
So it's pretty comprehensive, but and I really, as you can see here, this is where I kind of left it. I didn't add dimensions because in the previous drawings, there was a lot more on dimensions and tolerancing and stuff like that, which I think students are getting that. But
Yeah.
some of these things and getting it to look the way it's supposed to gets a little,
And then my
There's a
last
lot of
question
stuff.
was about
Mhm.
adding the visual threads, which it sounds like you're about to go over anyways.
I am. The
So-
cosmetic threads we're gonna go over. So
Perfect.
anything else besides cosmetic threads? All right. So yes, I encourage you to watch these 4 videos that I put out there if you need them. All right. Or it's just worth, you might pick up some things along the way. I just didn't necessarily want to spend class time on it all because like I said, I'm not getting questions. So I don't know if that's good or bad. So I'm thinking it's pretty good, but I also wanted to put this out there so that you had it. So cosmetic threads, let's talk about cosmetic threads. All right. So I'm going to go underneath here. We're actually going to do it in regard to this drawing because it's handy. So I'm going to go underneath cosmetic threads. So cosmetic threads, what we want to occur is when the threads are put in, we don't want to take up data to draw each and every one of the threads that would be in there. All right. It would, especially when we have like big assemblies that are going to have potentially a lot of fasteners and threaded holes and such. It takes up a lot of data unnecessarily and it'll slow things down. So the standard is to put them in as cosmetic or simplified version as we see here. And when we show a threaded hole, for instance, we want to show it, if I have this as a face and I kind of, show it like this, we're going to show it as 2 hidden lines. So one for the outside diameter or the major diameter of our thread and one for the minor diameter. Now, the last time we were together, which was just last night, we were having difficulties getting those to print out, meaning we would call them out in the model and we were like, yeah, they're there. But then when we would actually do the drawing, they wouldn't show up. There would just be a line on line, it seemed. Okay. So I did find out why that wasn't happening. I did a lot of research, but it's not so much that they're not being printed. It's just that we have to identify what that major and minor diameter is, okay? So I'm gonna go into our model for this drawing. That means I've got to go File, Open. I'm gonna pull up the part file itself, okay? And we're gonna go over to the cosmetic thread for this hole right here, okay? Now, before we do, I'm gonna go back underneath here. The call out for that thread is right here, okay? So if you guys already, if I hear a lot of clicking, so I'm hoping that maybe you got this already figured out and you've got cosmetic threads done. But if you don't, this is a good time to tune back in with me. So we've got a 0.812-20 UNEF. That means that it's a 13/16. That's going to be like the major diameter. -20, that's 20 threads per inch. It's a unified national thread and it's extra fine. Okay, so we're not going to find it on our list. All right. So what I did was and this is what you would do too, do a quick Google search. There's a lot of good information out there and we just want to know what is the root or the minor diameter for a 0.812-20 UNEF. Okay, that's all you want to know. What is the minor diameter or the root diameter for that? So that root diameter comes out to be 0.7512. Okay, that's like the tap drill size that we would use, okay, for it. So here is that size. Then what we're going to do is when we do our cosmetic thread, this is going to be the small hole on an internal feature is what we're going to model it at, okay? And then when we do the cosmetic thread, we're going to manually put in the major diameter and the minor diameter. Because when we weren't doing that, it would actually have the same major diameter and minor diameter. So it was like going over the top, even though there was actually a cosmetic thread going in, all we have to do is we have to tweak this. And now we just have to make sure that those are two different numbers that coincide with what they're supposed to be. And now we're going to get to see that offset. Okay. So I'm going to show you where we do that. So again, this is in this video, exactly how I do this, but I'm going to show you here because this will apply to the other things that we're working on. Go back to Creo. Okay, so I'm going to go into this hole right here that I created. This is the 0.7525 hole. So I made this to the minor diameter. So if you want to put this hole in, and we go to the sketch, you want to make sure that this is not the 0.812. And I think I know I told you guys to do that. Just put it at the major diameter and put it in there. We want to put it at the minor diameter of this actual thread size. So 0.7525 is the diameter. And the depth here is going to be to 0.437. Okay, that's the depth of the thread portion. Okay. And once you have that in, that's going to be okay. Then you're going to add the cosmetic thread. To add the cosmetic thread, you're going to go up to the engineering and click on cosmetic thread. Okay. Now, when we do that, I'm going to go into mine right here. I'm going to edit the definition. You're going to keep this on simple thread. Don't go to standard because the standard isn't over there and we can actually create it here. So we've got a simple thread. We're going to put the diameter at 0.813. That's our major diameter. And that's really the nominal size of the thread. Okay. Our pitch is going to be 20. That's how many threads per inch we're going to have. If we would count along 1 inch length, we would get 20 peaks in there for the threads. Now, we're going to go through that same process of placement. We're going to put it on this surface or on the inside surface here. You're going to select that inside surface. And then you're going to do the starting surface. So it can be the outside surface. Here would be your starting surface for where the threads are going to start. And then your depth is going to be to a blind depth this time because we know that it's 0.437. Okay. So that's the information we were filling in before. But now the change comes over here in properties. There's a tab here for properties. You're going to notice that the major diameter, that's going to be the 0.812. All right. If you have to key that in, key it in. All right. 0.812. It might be actually at the 0.7525. Okay. If you're doing it along with me here, but make sure that your major diameter is 0.8125 or 813. And then your minor diameter at the bottom is going to be this number that we just talked about. It's the 0.7525. Before we do this, now there's a difference between these two. If you went in there, you notice that whatever your major diameter was, so was your minor. So those two numbers were over the top of each other. That's why we weren't seeing them come through in our drawing, okay? Now, you don't really have to do anything here. You don't have to hit save or anything like that, because now it's going to draw it and you're just going to simply hit OK. And that's it. And now when you go here, you're going to notice that, yeah, there are actually two diameters. Okay, there's two diameters. And when we go over to our drawing then, so that's in there. When we go over to our drawing, oopsie, wrong one. When we go to our drawing and I go in here, look at, I've got two lines now. They're showing up. So the cosmetic threads were there. We just had to identify the major or the minor diameter. Okay. And that's what you're going to want to do for any other cosmetic threads that come up. So like on the vice screw, you're going to do that. On the hole on the base. So in those those couple of places. If I go underneath here, we're going to have to do it here, because anything that's like a 1/4-20, we can do this on the hole wizard, right? And that one comes through fine. But this one, because there isn't an Acme thread, then we have to do it manually. So we have to do a cosmetic thread for that one, do a cosmetic thread for this one, and then a cosmetic thread for this internal one and for the collar. Okay. So when you watch those videos, you're going to notice that I go through that again. Okay. In that manner that we just talked about. Does that help and make sense for you guys? And then when you call it out, okay, when it pulls in, it's going to dimension the individual diameters. You don't want that. You're going to call it out as your standard note. Okay. So you would do a note and then you would attach it to that surface. Okay. So because it's going to give you like a diameter of, and it's going to actually do the 0.812 and the 0.752. We don't want to dimension it like that. We're going to do it all in a note. Okay. So Jeffrey, does that help? Yes. Okay. So play around with that. And you may still have questions like wondering what those are. If you, meaning the diameters that correspond to it, I did put in our resources here in the learning plan for module number 5. And this has been in there. But if you do need to, a good reference to try to figure those out is that drill chart. It's a Starrett drill chart. So if you're doing, for instance, the 1/4-20s, for example, what you're going to do is you're going to find your tap size. So if we want to find the 1/4-20 tap size, it's going to be up here. Here's 1/4-20. Its corresponding drill. Okay. So if we wanted to put the minor diameter in for that one is going to be 0.201. Okay. So that would be the root diameter of those threads. Okay. Now these are going to be for kind of like the most common ones. For that one that we talked about, the 13/16-20 UNEF, that one's not on here. That's why I had to look it up on Google. Okay. So feel free to use that as a resource too. Google is really good. The only thing I would bar against is maybe not go with your very first one. Maybe find an answer and then verify it in at least one other place. And then if you see it in at least 2 places, you should be good. Okay. All right. Or if you have something like a Starrett drill chart or Machinery's Handbook or something like that, that'll be a good resource. Other questions that you have as you're doing these details before we move on to assemblies? Crickets. That's okay. Again, I don't know how to read it, and we'll see as things come in. But as I had mentioned, a couple of things, as well as watching those recordings that I have out there, of the separate items, I think is going to be helpful if you need it. And also, even if you don't feel like you need it, it's good to go over it because something might come up that you weren't expecting. All right. Okay, so if there aren't any more questions on the details, is there any other questions besides anything else? Chris, you were working on the on the borders, are they coming in okay now? Now they're working,
Yeah,
okay.
it was, you're right, it was about like the type of file.
Oh, okay, the format wasn't in there for it, okay. All right, good, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm gonna repeat that one more time. Remember, the first time that I had these out there, the Creo borders, I apologize, I didn't realize it because, as you know, if things are in the background, it has to all be there, but there was an error coming up. So these are the new ones. If you downloaded these previous to me putting the new ones in, or if you're pulling these up and you're getting an error, then you know you have the old ones in there. Delete the format files and the template files, which are drawing files, out of your working directory. And then once you have those all out, download the 3 format files and then the 4 template files all into your working directory. These are working great that I know of. I don't think anybody's having any issues. I haven't heard anything since. But if you are getting an error, do that first, and that should solve that problem. Okay, so sorry about that. It was, I didn't realize it was happening until I was notified, but got that corrected ASAP. All right, so if there aren't any other questions then at this time, then I'm going to stop this recording and then we'll start our assemblies. Okay, I'll look at that, that learning plan.